Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar organized by the Innovation Hub dedicated to art, tourism, and culture that is part of Compass project. That is Horizon 2020 program in the framework of Odysseus European University. It's a pleasure for us to be here today, and we have a really tight time and a lot of people that we're going to present, and we're going to be part of this project. So we were going to start really quickly. So this is the plan for today, and we're going to have this sequence with the keynote organized with the ISA Association based in Milan, represented by Amelia Lentini, Barbara Blasi, and Carla Vittori, that we're going to be also the speaker. And after that, we're going to have a panel of experts that are represented by our Anna Dentoni, Secretary General of the Maritime Cultural Heritage Association of Genova, Giacomo Montanari, art historian and scientific curator of the Holidays, Susanna Reveskova, Senior Project Manager of CICA, and Julia Rey Perez, Associate Professor at the University of Seville. The Q&A, we're going to be really small, and there were going to be just 5 minutes for questions at the end of the panel of experts and at the end of the pitching session. So we're going to be really quick, and there we're going to be our and mostly of the interaction we're going to probably take part in the chat. After that, there were going to be a pitching session in which there were going to be a few projects presented by researchers and innovators that are Agostino Massa and Riccardo Spinelli, professor at UNIGA, Carlo Terizzo, that is from Salamanca but fellow researcher at UNIGA, Pauline Poirot and Roxane Horforet, that are from the design school in Nice, and Frédéric Precioso, that is a professor at the University Côte d'Azur. That's us who organized this event, and it's me and Alessio that is here, and they were gonna propose us all the questions that were gonna take place on YouTube. And we, of course, are supported by a broad range of experts who are a fundamental part of our innovation hub. Just for quickly present you who we are. We work mostly with tourism, art, and heritage. And we are here today mostly for give a room to professional researchers and students of universities. So for give visibility to the researchers and the projects that are working in the field related to accessibility, inclusiveness in cultural heritage, but also in the related field of sustainable tourism. So all these kind of activities that are what we are working on, and also that's our idea to giving mostly giving this moment for give room to researcher, so to present their project. That's are the activities that we're gonna bring forward over the last 2 years, mostly with local international companies, organization and cooperation, but also in research activities. These are the structure of the webinar of today, and I will gonna just start with the keynotes. That is the more important part of it's the upcoming one. So I the association, and I give the voice directly to Carla Vittori. Please.
Thank you. So good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for being here. So we will present the Itaka project. That means Italian construction and architecture. So we'll start the presentation explaining briefly what is cultural heritage, and then we'll show the European framework for action on this domain. Then we'll talk about one of these areas regarded in the framework, that is the sustainable cultural tourism. And then we will explain the main aspects of the Itaka project, that is the project proposed by IDEA, Italian Association of Women Engineers and Architects, based in Milan. Then we'll show what Commission European is doing about digital cultural heritage. And in the end of the presentation, we'll discuss some opportunities and some challenges and issues related about applying digital technologies to cultural heritage. Okay. So Europe's cultural heritage is a rich and diverse mosaic of cultural and creative expressions, an inheritance from previous generations of Europeans and a legacy for those to come. It includes a lot of things like archaeological sites, museums, monuments, and also the knowledge, practices, and traditions of European citizens. But it hardly includes engineering and architectural heritage from a technical point of view, as examples of innovation, new solutions, or customization to the territory. Cultural heritage can be classified as tangible, like castles, museums, works of art, untangible, like songs, traditions, and digital, both born digital and digitized. What is the importance of cultural heritage? It enriches the individual lives of citizens, is a driving force for the cultural and creative sectors, and plays a role in creating and enhancing Europe's social capital. It is also an important resource for economic growth, employment, and social cohesion, offering the potential to revitalize urban and rural areas. The integration of the three aspects, tangible, intangible, and digital, is the key factor to make the tourism sustainable, both from the point of view of dissemination and maintenance. The European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage establishes four key principles that are an holistic view, a mainstream and integrated action, a policy based on evidence, and the presence of multiple stakeholders. The framework covers 5 areas of continued action to get an inclusive, sustainable, resilient, and innovative Europe based on a stronger global partnership. One of the areas covered by the framework is the sustainable cultural tourism that offers a new perspective as it places cultural heritage and local communities at the center of decision-making process. The goal of sustainable cultural tourism is to guarantee good conservation practices to support the local economy and at the same time enrich the economy of the places where the model will be exported. Now we'll present the main aspects of the Itaka project. And why this name Itaka? Because innovation is a long journey that starts from the past. And Itaka, that means Italian construction and architecture, is a metaphor for the travel to the home of culture and ingenuity. The aim of the project is to exploit engineering and architectural works, taking into account the aspects of the sustainability and their impact on the territory, and also the collaboration between public and private entities. Consider the Agenda Objectives 2030 and G20 under the Italian presidency. The object is to create a model of widespread tourism that, supported by new technological applications and digitization, can spread and perpetuate the results obtained outside. The project consists of a conscious look at the Italian engineering and architectural heritage to spread the knowledge of its excellence and promote a technical scientific tourism. The structures, the plans, and notable constructions that will be considered in the project will be chosen by their innovative aspects, uniqueness, and historical relevance. We'll start setting the model and the related strategy for cooperation between the various subjects of the integrated work team. Then we'll define the guidelines that allow the best way to choose the pilot sites to be supported. After that, we'll choose the sites and analyze the results from the pilot project. Then we'll test the realization through a survey, and in the end, we will estimate the attractiveness of the project to proceed with its replicability and scalability with subjects of sustainable finance. Now we'll talk about the digital European cultural heritage. So the European Commission policy covers the areas of digitization, online access to cultural material, and digital preservation. The Commission proposes a common European data space for cultural heritage and encourages member states to digitize by 2030 all monuments and sites that are at risk of degradation, and half of those highly frequented by tourists. These are some examples of digital technologies that have been used on cultural heritage. Here we have artificial intelligence, games, drones, virtual reality, blockchain, geo-based approaches, and all of these technologies has been used in web platforms, applications, or even to create new social networks. We now talk about some of the opportunities given by using digital technologies on cultural heritage. We will start talking about digitization. So, through digitization, we can preserve and promote the access of cultural heritage to all. We can also document, transmit, and revitalize intangible cultural heritage. It also be used in the educational and research sectors. Through the digitization, we can offer innovative visitor experiences and remote access to material that is not on display. And we can also protect cultural heritage of conflicts, natural disasters, and other emergencies. And digitization can also help to fight against illicit trafficking of cultural property. Digital technologies can rehabilitate the edifices of their shared identity or ensure the transmission of memory in the case of irreversible damage. These technologies can also improve disaster risk reduction strategies. Using digital technologies, we can preserve memory in the case of fragile heritage. And it can also be an instrument of democratization, which might bring a solution to social inequalities and conflicts. But these are just some opportunities that we are talking about. But we should also consider the challenges and issues related to apply digital technologies on cultural heritage. The first of them is the inclusion, because unfortunately, not everyone is currently included in the digital revolution. For example, in 2020, almost half of humanity was still being left behind about digital revolution. And inequalities exist also between and within countries. For example, digital penetration drops to 90% in the less economically developed countries. And there are 12% fewer women who use the internet globally than men. But even where the technical possibilities exist, the digital skills gaps remain a major barrier for new technologies becoming a powerful tool for all people. We should also consider that digitization should enhance real-life experiences rather than replace them. And there's also the risk of technical obsolescence and physical decay of these technologies. We should also consider the ethics about using big data and artificial intelligence, because it raises fundamental questions about the selection and interpretation of cultural heritage. The use of inappropriate metadata schemas can have a destructive impact on community culture. We should also consider the cyber threats that can impact in terms of manipulation, destruction, or deletion of digital identity access. There is also a risk that concerns the possible privatization of the collective cultural heritage. And regarding intangible cultural heritage, digital tools raise questions about local cultural property rights. And we should also consider that the content of digital files regarding cultural heritage can be easily modified. So we will have to think about all of these challenges and issues before using digital technologies. And you should also analyze which technology will be the most appropriate for each situation. These are the references that we used in the presentation. So I'd like to thank you, all of you, for your attention.
Thank you, Carla. It's been a really interesting speech and giving a really big overview of the different projects and the different experiences that we're gonna be presented today through the voices of the innovators and the experts. So I've been really interesting. And we were I would like also to a bit giving a bit more of the overview about the idea association that I didn't give before, in order to say that it's Idea Million. It's a really versatile association, and it's characterized by multiple professionists and that have different ages, different skills, and different competencies. So this keynote was also given to this broad kind of professionalities who are connected with the Idea Association. I would just go running to the amazing experience that Anna D'Antoni we're gonna bring today. So and we're gonna focalize all the question at the end of these big experiences that we're gonna talk about. So sorry for who wants really to ask to our experts, but we don't have so much time to do that. So Anna, she is. Thank you, as well for being here. She is a Secretary General of the Maritime Cultural Heritage Association, as I mentioned before, a member of the International ICOM and in the Marketing and Public Relations Commission. Also in the International Congress of Maritime Museum and in the International Science of Conscience Network. Today, she is going to talk about the enhancement of social engagement in the Galata Maritime Museum in Geneva through the project that she realized with a big field of experts that are in the Sala degli Armatori. That is the translation is the room of the ship owner, basically. So please, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Thank to Carla for her presentation. That you will find some of the issues and of the things that she pointed out presented in our project too. As Clio said, I'm the Secretary General of the Associazione Promotori Musei del Mare, a non-profit association which for almost 30 years has been promoting the cultural maritime heritage of Genova through the support of Galata Maritime Museum. Today I will present a project realized in collaboration with the scientific staff of the Maritime Museum and the architect of Studio Arch, La Sala degli Armatori. It is an innovative outfit exhibition with the goals of facilitate accessibility to the maritime cultural heritage, maintain the interest of the supporters of the museum, and keep the engagement of museum visitors. But to better understand the project, I would like to clarify the context. So I will begin to briefly illustrating the history of the Associazione and of Galata Maritime Museum. Everything started in 1993 with the exhibition from Dal Mediterraneo all'Atlantico, curated by Pierangelo Campodonico and paid by a small group of maritime enthusiasts, shipping companies, in fact, that are the founders of the Promotori. In 2004, a few exhibition and publication and conferences later, Galata Museo del Mare opened it to the public. Galata is a modern maritime museum that enhanced the great heritage of the city of Genoa and its relationship with the sea. Galata is the largest maritime museum in Italy, located in the old arsenal of the Republic of Genoa, and the renovation of the building is based on a project by Catalan architect Guillermo Vázquez Consuegra. It is the most visited museum in Genoa and has an area of 11,000 square meters and 30 galleries to exhibit more than 4,300 artifacts and objects. It has an involving and interactive exhibits, both for big ones and younger visitor. And fast forwarding to today, the task of the project Sala degli Armatori was to present the history of merchant ships to our general public. And we go back to the goal that I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, the goal of this room. Making a heritage accessible means making it interesting. 18 months of research, conservation between scholars and shipping workers and ship owners made it possible to realize a specific thematic exhibition. From the history of Genoese Navy, we move to the story of its protagonist, the ship owners, gli armatori. The museum path becomes a story, the story of ship owners. Storytelling is inclusive and allows to tell story capable of arousing emotions. The use of digital storytelling allows culture to become more inclusive and accessible, in particular when we talk about intangible cultural heritage. Our second goal, 12 ship owners were identified and asked to participate. They opened the doors of their companies. Interviews were filmed. People gave their time, but also models, photos, stories, documents, and financial support too. Supporters can relate to the exhibition because the exhibition tells the story of their family and company, and it's a celebration of what they do. Our third goal it's keep the engagement of museum visitors. Well, this picture, in fact, is Miss Grimaldi. If you can go back 1 second, this is Miss Grimaldi, that it's the ship owner, taking a picture of her ship that was installed inside the museum, talking about involvement of our supporters. The third goal was to keep the engagement of museum visitors. We invested in many aspects of the design of the gallery, both in physical experience, for example, lighting of the vitrines that are sensible to the presence of visitors, for instance, and modern simulators, and also integrating the exhibit with highly interactive workstation that allow the visitors to deep dive into the maritime history. An immersive and multimedia setup that exhibits 22 ships, 6 short movies, 1 ship's simulator, 10 multimedia workstations with thousands of captions, visual, and information available for visitors of all ages. However, we believe that to keep promoting the maritime heritage, new feature and medium must be added and special project activated to educate and passionate on these themes new generation and young people. In fact, a new and engaging app was recently added. In the gallery, visitors can now stroll the digital database of the Italian Naval Registry. Ship registers are official lists that certify the class and the main classification of the ships. In this workstation, more than 140,000 pages are available for consultation. And soon the program will also be available online. I believe that projects like the Sala degli Armatori proves that with a compelling story in the use of digitalization and technological solutions, it is possible to increase accessibility of the cultural heritage, in this case, maritime cultural heritage, while boosting the interest of museum visitors and of potential sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
That's really interesting how the accessibility is taught as a long-term process, so developed in the space. You started this digitalization in 2017, is it correct?
Well, the gallery actually was open to the public at the end of 2017. So and it continued to be upgraded. So we started study on this project around 2015. Yes, 2 years, almost 2 years before the opening. Yeah. But that's also because we also wanted to involve the ship owners. So, it takes time to study the subject and then meet with these people. And as I said, recording the interview and decided what to be published or used in the gallery. So it was a long process, yes. But this digital storytelling is very important for museums.
Yeah, connected to that, I thought would be interesting that Professor Giacomo Montanari can bring his experience in what he has done with the UNESCO site of Palazzo dei Rolli, because it's really connected to this experience of digitalization, but in another way, and it's more about digital engagement. So, we asked him if he can talk us about working on the enhancement of cultural heritage and how the development of digital strategies improve or not improve or get worse the accessibility inclusiveness and at which level it is the technological influence influence the accessibility inclusiveness in his experience. Please, Giacomo, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you all, and thank you for the invitation and all the speakers. And in this brief presentation, I would like to highlight the strategies with which we have tried to increase the accessibility to all levels of public and of a complex site like the Palazzi dei Rolli UNESCO World Heritage Site, working on initiatives in presence and on the construction of a digital communication strategies. Rolli Days consist in the extraordinary opening to the public of private palaces, public institutions, and museums that are part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site of the Strade Nuove and the Sistema dei Palazzi dei Rolli. Rolli Days is a pop name. Someone like it, someone dislike it, but is a way to communicate this idea of a great opening to the public of this complex site. Two editions of the event are held each year, in October and in May, allowing thousands of visitors free entry to sites that are unique for their beauty and prestige. In addition to opening the palaces in the historic city center, also villas, churches, and historic gardens in the neighboring districts are often added, creating an integrated system of cultural offers to satisfy a wide range of users. The event has been successfully held for 11 years with an increasingly large audience. From 2009 to 2019, the upward trend in the number of visitors has been exponential, with an increase of more than 1,000% in attendance. It went from 11,000 visits in May 2009 to over 130,000 in October 2019, a record for the event. The success of the event is due to a winning formula that provides a diversified offer in each edition, but maintains a constant level of quality. We can go back to the second slide, please. The breadth and quantity of the sites involved means that the new and previously unvisited buildings can be opened on each occasion. In addition, tourists are accompanied on their free visits by young professionals trained in the field of the humanities, which allows for immersive involvement and active participation in a knowledge of a city's heritage. They are not professional communicators, but specialized professionals capable of divulgating, who are trained every edition to develop new techniques and way of narrating heritage. In this way, the audience has to deal with young people under 35 who can convey all their expertise in a fresh and precise way, each using their own characteristics and united together in a team of almost 100 professionals in dissemination. The different language of disseminators of these young professionals allows thinking about specific target audiences. The possibility of drawing a pool of professionals from all over Italy and in part from all over Europe makes it possible to diversify the methods of visit by guaranteeing language tools for foreign visitors. In this way, the impact of the communication campaign carried out before the event can be maximized in the field during the event. In addition, the Rolli Days, through its quality in the storytelling about cultural heritage, are promoters of the development of cultural tourism in the city. This generates a construction of value for citizens, but at the same time generates economic and social value for the entire city through direct economic impacts on the spending of visitors to the event and indirect impacts that favor productive activities in the area. We can go further to the fourth slide. Sorry, I was wrong. But of course, the pandemic also marked the development of these events. In what way? Before the pandemic, the event was essentially conducted in a live form through a constant stream of people populating the city over the dedicated weekends. And everything was almost ready for the May edition when in March 2020, Italy entered in the first wave of spread of the virus, preventing the event from being held in the traditional way. So in this way, the Holidays event was the first in Italy to completely transform its offerings into a digital format, allowing everyone, even from lockdown, to access the city's most spectacular residence. It was therefore possible to win the challenge of transforming the pandemic from a misfortune into an opportunity for the event, which made it possible to rethink the way in which the city's cultural heritage is told. We have decided to create a Holidays Digital Week. So an event completely digital to be accessed from remote. We can go to the, okay, and even to that. Okay, thank you. Since the start of the pandemic, 4 events related to the transmission of digital content have been realized. In addition to the Holidays Digital Week, it was decided to realize the following events in live and digital format, so a hybrid event. Due to the space constraints, the number of physical visitors during the last Holidays was necessarily reduced compared to the last pre-pandemic edition. So it was decided to maintain this hybrid path that allowed even those who could not participate in the physical visits to still be able to interact with the Palazzi dei Rolli. And in the other slide, we can see roughly the numbers of these editions. So the 3 editions in live and digital, with all the sites open, 77, and this gross number of 75,080 visitors. And we can go further. And here you have this hybrid path coming clear. So we have a lot of people coming live, but on the digital way, we have a greater success of the digital proposal. So digital path and live path are really hybrid and are maximizing each other in the pursuit of the event. The goals of this digital transformation of the event are many and can be summarized in some few points that you can see on the slide. The creation of a portfolio of digital videos on the city's cultural heritage not only allows the public to be intrigued by the city's tourist campaign, but also enables students to get up close and personal with the spaces, frescoes, and works of art contained in the various buildings. We can change. But the main goal is perhaps to try to bring a younger public to the event. Young people are generally less attracted and interested in cultural tourism. Those are numbers that are at the end for everyone. And digital is certainly an incentive to try to I haven't took the plane. It's like we are in the air station. I was saying young people are generally less attracted and interested by cultural tourism, and digital is certainly an incentive to try to involve the under 30s in understanding heritage. The data, and we can go to the last slide, seems to confirm a greater involvement of young people in the event following the digital campaign carried out in recent years, with almost the 40% of users at the last Rally Days in October 2021 being under 35 years of age. But digital also means the possibility to promote and communicate the city of Genoa also in the foreign countries. So one of the long-term goals of digitalized heritage is to bring visitors from all over the world to the city who can understand the beauty and importance of Genoa as a city of art that has nothing to envy from other Italian cultural capitals such as Naples, Florence, or Milan. Thank you.
Thank you, Giacomo. It's a really nice perspective also. Do you think it's also the narrative of the Rolli Palace that changed through it? As Anna D'Antoni told before, it is also about the narrative, or the improvement of the narrative. Do you think it's...
I think that the building of a new way of speaking about heritage is the key. I'm sorry because I have to be very brief, so I think a lot of things are not very understandable, but I'm at your disposition to go deeper in this theme if you want.
Yeah, no, sorry, because the time is it's tight, so it's our fault. It's not your fault. We know that it's related to it. It was really for me. It was really interesting how this the digital developments that was like occasionally included in these Rolli Days have been then. Creating a complementary inclusion of visitors, but also like for dissemination. No? So how young people but both also other kind of visitors have been more involved in the process. So I'm gonna let the question at the beginning for everybody. Let's go ahead. Let's go for Susanna. We have there's Susanna Reveskova. Here she is a senior project manager at the creative industry of Kosice and urban strategic planning and cultural strategies, audience researcher, but also a PhD student in the regional science at the Technical University in Kosice. Today talking with us about the practices of creative industry in Kosice. And Susanna.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you some of our attempts to bring inclusive practices in the work of creative industry Kosice. Maybe we can proceed. My name is Zuzana Nevesova, and as thank you, Cleo, for the presentation. I work part-time as a senior project manager, and I've been in charge of a project called Culture and Creative Spaces in Cities that was funded by Creative Europe in 2018 to 2021. Please, next slide. Which kind of brought me into this discourse of inclusivity in cultural policies and collaboration, participatory decision-making. Just to slightly introduce Creative Industry Kosice, or CIKE, we are a non-profit organization that was established by the city of Kosice after 2013, when Kosice was European Capital of Culture. And we seek to deliver good strategic materials, but also support talented individuals in culture and creative sector. So we are not mainly oriented on cultural heritage, but we work with different cultural organizations, also through education, trainings, mentoring projects, and research, and also mobility programs. So maybe because we have this broader perspective, we can also contribute with some look and quite innovative technologies, because we collaborate a lot with digital technologies, with companies that work in gaming and in innovation. Thank you. As I mentioned, as a project manager of this 3-year project, we try to, within the urban lab in Kosice, we co-created a new cultural strategy through some workshops, multi-stakeholder discussions that took place in 2 years. We did a lot of research, and we co-created a new plan that would follow the one that was created in 2013 to build a new infrastructure, as you know, probably from all the ECOC initiatives. And this one, the new one, for the next 7 years, the picture in the middle shows the cover of the book that was in Slovak, presenting the new cultural strategy. It set the community and integration as #1 priority in the future. So it should be valid for all the cultural institutions, for the municipality, and for all those established also by regional government and the national government. So we try to co-create it with all those who are involved and who work in the city, and who not only work with local citizens, but also with visitors coming to the city as tourists, for example. Next slide. Now, within the plans of the cultural strategy, we felt that there is a need to do broader research, and we held a larger survey and qualitative research to find out what were the reasons for non-participation, and for maybe what were the gaps in participation. And within the 3 focus groups, we were able to identify maybe some feelings of segregation or non-openness of mainstream cultural institutions, their physical face and their welcomeness, or the feeling of being welcome. Then we could identify on the graph, we see the second most important reason is the lack of information, which was mostly valid for people of age. The first one was also the lack of time, and we can interpret it as a fact of excluding families with children, because they don't have time to visit culture in the part of their work and family. So this limited access also for marginalized communities, which was we were not able to identify within this larger survey due to main sociological reasons, because it was a telephonic survey. We could not really talk to marginalized communities, and also not so much with younger people. And also not so much with senior citizens. So we tried to go deeper, and please, next slide. We organized a new method, also mentioned by Cleo, the method of living labs. We're trying to improvise or prototype this new methodology that is very open and very flexible. And we try to create a co-creative environment with citizens of Kosice to bring new ideas for those who work in cultural institutions, also those institutions in cultural heritage like libraries, galleries, or also cinema, community places. And we try to bring people of older age or disability, and the next slide, you can see the methodology that we used. This is a picture of this environment. It was really working very well. That we, in the warm-up, introduced or let everybody introduce themselves in like more playful manner, and to kind of like break the boundaries of personalities and create this playful environment. And then we co-created or like named a map of going to this culture institution and what were the obstacles in contact with the culture. We, for example, could see that people who have Down syndrome could not really understand why there is so dark in the concert, or why there is no timing when you want to go to the gallery or to the museum, because you should be able to organize someone who can come with you, and those people need to know how much time it takes to be an accompanying person, also for senior citizens. So we tried to we made a list of those ideas or those obstacles, and we try to generate ideas how these obstacles can be overcome by some prototypes. So in the groups, we co-created practical solutions, and also we tested them with personas. It was a classical design thinking process, and we drew some comic book to see how this prototype could be tested with different personas and how different people could actually be in touch with this new tool. For example, like a new app that would work with your watches, and you could get a notification and also organize your way to the point. So this is like a way what I think, or we think in creative industry could use the tools of opening the cultural institution for discussion, involving citizens, and getting feedback directly from those who are targeted and who should be involved in visiting this institution. Thank you very much. And this is our contact, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Susanna. This experience is definitely really different of the ones we talked before. But I think it's really valuable how you organize all the structure of the lab and how it's have been really strategic, how the participation in the city environments have been developed. We're gonna directly jump to the next that is connected to this urban heritage that is with Julia Rey Perez. I hope we're gonna add more time in our next webinar just to talk about how was our experiences. Julia, how you can tell us about your experience?
Well, first, I'd like to thank two organizers for inviting me to the event. It's a real pleasure to be here. I would like to take the opportunity that this year celebrates the 10th anniversary of the launch of the whole recommendation, no? And it's a historic urban landscape recommendation. And it's an opportunity to show the possibilities of its implementation at the university, no? I'm going to talk about how the whole approach allows you to use new tools to generate a new knowledge about heritage, no? And therefore it has to be developed. Next. Next.
I don't have the slides because they can't be downloaded. So I think or I can't really download it. If you can just talk, and I will try to retrieve all the
because
images.
I can't share my screen, no?
No. But I can. Okay, I can do it. Wait, here we are. I can just wait. Oh, there is okay. Can you see it? Yes. So I can't. Sorry about it. Okay, this is for you, and I can share this, and this. I can't I can't really put you as a co-host. I'm sorry, I'm not on the technical side, but I hope you can see it. Is it right?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, great.
So you can pass to the next, you can go to the next. Okay, so I will draw on the case study of Cuenca, no? Developed between 2014 and 2015, no? Where a project was made to implement the whole recommendation. Next, Cuenca is the third most important city in Ecuador in terms of population, site, and administration. Next. The Historic Center of Cuenca, included in the World Heritage List in 1989, includes the territory that was occupied by the city of Cuenca in the first half of the 20th century, the archaeological site of Mapungo, and the pathway access to the old town. 15 years after this recognition, the lack of an updated management plan for the historic areas has put the inscription at risk. So in this respect, the reality is that the management of the Historic Center of Cuenca is regulated by the Department of Historic Areas of the Municipality of Cuenca, a department made up mostly of architects with a vision of heritage still limited to building conservation. Besides studies developed by different organisms without any cross-checking or information nor any reflection to heritage matters. Next, the purpose of this research on this or this case study is to present the methodology created according to the 6-step action plan whole approach, which through the identification of cultural values among all the actors involved in the city, draws up a series of sustainable urban development strategies. The construction of this methodology is based on the analysis of the city from multiple disciplines. And with this project, I wanted to highlight the important role of academic institutions in bringing new knowledge to urban heritage management and in raising awareness and involvement of local communities. Next. First of all, the University of Cuenca wanted to work in improving this situation. So they did a previous study. This showed why it was necessary to implement the whole approach in Cuenca, because we have degraded areas, disappearance of historic buildings, among others. No? Next. In view of this, we started the project PUC, because in Spanish, Paisaje Urbano Histórico in Cuenca, it's a long name. And the definition of whole provides the what, making reference to the multiple information layers from whole's definition, and the where, the whole city beyond its area nominated as a World Heritage Site. Next, we need the whole, and we thought to overlap the information from all the layers required by the whole, including different disciplines beyond the architecture. Next, the three defining characteristics of research in progress are the broad net view of heritage city as a whole, interdisciplinarity, and the important role of the citizen. Next, please. So the methodology of research is a mix between natural and urban fields, composed of 4 phases and on the basis of the action plan established by the whole approach. The phase 1 is analysis of interdisciplinary contributions, defines the key physical or territorial, urban and heritage elements that make up the city. This is step 1. The phase 2 is the definition of cultural values and attributes and identification of vulnerabilities, step 2 and 3. And the phase 3 is the identification of sustainable development strategies through the integration of previous information into an urban development framework. This is step 4. And the prioritization of protective actions, step 5, and the last phase is the phase 4, is establish local partnership. Next, please. Let's start with the phase 1. This is the analysis of interdisciplinary contribution. Next, please. And with the first block, studies of territorial of urban character. So the first study is the influence and conditioning of the territory in the urban configuration of Cuenca. Next. The second study is the natural landscape and analysis of the vegetation and fauna has been done from the environmental viewpoint. Next. And the third study is review of the regulatory system. Next. A historic cartographic study. The objective of this document has been to understand and reconstruct Cuenca's urban evolution and its internal and outward planning. Next. The study of relationship between population density and land use. Next. The second block is the study of heritage character, with the first study is the archaeological component in Cuenca. The only place are the pre-Hispanic sites Pumapungo, and the surrounding areas of the city for a circuit of archaeological landmarks. The intangible heritage and the characterization of Cuenca's history urban landscape. The study tried to cover the 5 areas defined by the UNESCO, where the totality of the manifestation of the intangible heritage is concentrated in the historic center, with rare exception in surrounding areas. The economic activities in Cuenca, we have studied are the 2 great main economies activities in Cuenca. Tourism, it's concentrated in the historic city, and itinerant trade, both contribute to the configuration of its character and identity. Next. Again, here. Architectural typologies of the city of Cuenca to identify the architectural typologies in the historic center, colonial, republic, modern, and contemporary, taking into account the state of conservation and its poor state of preservation. And the third block is the perception study. The first study is a critical historic review of pictures, to identify transformation and visual impact. We can see the proliferation of architecture in height with different materials, and how the views out to the territory and the city center are interrupted. A perception of whole in Cuenca from the citizen participation workshop. The objective was to know their perception about the landscape of the city, because the recommendation on whole suggests using tools for civic participation adapted to the local context in order to establish safeguarding measures for sustainable development of the city. A key component in the methodological process applied in Cuenca is the fact that input has not only been received from experts, but the opinions of citizens have also been heard. This process included workshops which took place in social affinity spaces of neighborhoods, and in addition, a photography contest open to the public and a driving competition for children were part of the activities, organized to encourage citizen participation and to know a more whole vision of the different actors of the city. 200 participants attended to the workshop. Visual techniques as well as brainstorming support the 5 activities races to search for identity elements, anomalies, heritage values, units delimitation, and reflections to better conserve the city's heritage. The results indicate unshared interest on elements embedded in the collective memory, such as the main cathedral, the river's flow song, astronomy, natural elements, mountain, rivers, trees, birds, among the most frequent. Anomalies ranged from the deterioration of building to transportation and insalubrity issues, and many public squares and parks were ascribed with heritage values with bound importance for their daily interactions. They defined the areas of the neighborhoods, and finally the reflections mostly raises pedestrian areas, the incentive of housing in the city center, as well as the safeguarding of river banks. The inclusion of community actors from the initial phases was possible due to community association and neighborhood leaders, which is a characteristic of the contest. And so far are the results of the analytical phase. After the mapping phase, phase 2, the definition of cultural values and attributes, which were possible thanks to a second participatory workshop called Visionary Conference, managed by the university, the municipality of Cuenca, and UNESCO. As previously mentioned, after cross-checking the information, the diagnosis was prepared for validation with the community, administrative institution, as well as technicians and experts. Working groups were set up by them: architectural, heritage, culture, environment, socioeconomics, and regulations, based on the information available, and in addition to validating this information, cultural values and attributes and vulnerabilities were defined. A lot of very interesting information came out about what to protect. The territory, next, intangible heritage, and architecture were highlighted as the key attributes to protect, and their values were identified. Issues that make heritage particularly vulnerable were also identified: private interest over public interest, lack of research and economic resources, increased pollution, among others. Once validated and agreed, the next step is phase 3, identification of sustainable development strategy, where step 4 of integrating the previous information into an urban development framework, and step 5, which consists of prioritization protection actions. 4 lines of action were established by consensus. You can see there: qualifying the integration of cultural heritage in the urban landscape, adaptation of infrastructure and environmental issues, promotion of the informal economy, and reduction of impacts. These strategies proposed in each of the line of action are built on the values and attributes identified in the previous phase. Finally, a voting process was developed to prioritize these actions, where the most voted was: promote pedestrianization in the historic center, followed by sustainable transport alternatives, bus, parking, and bike lines, comprehensive regulations, the adaptive reuse of abandoned buildings for social housing, sport, cultural issues that foster social integration, a plan that regulates the maintenance of the sequence of smells, flowers, incense, Palo Santo, and sounds, river, water, bird in public spaces, and the regularization of informal trade. Finally, there is a last phase 4, which is the consolidation of relationship that is led by the municipality in order to bring together even more other actors involved in the city. Their consensual strategies reflect the aspiration of the population to draft a strategic plan, which helps to define the future imaging of the city. The work developed is a departure point for a more accurate government decision-making and a powerful document for the community. For instance, in the case that certain budget is given, there is already a set of information to prioritize the investment and actions, depending on the technical, political, or economic issues. And this slide. To end, the specific results obtained are as follows: the definition of strategies, the characterization and identification of the urban needs, the assessment of the landscape and cultural heritage qualities of the city of Cuenca, the promotion of the local socioeconomic development, and the construction of a new vision and perception of the historic urban landscape in the city of Cuenca. Also, the consolidation of GIS database is an important tool for spatial analysis. To finalize, returning next please to the recommendation and taking into consideration the 6 steps defined by UNESCO for the application of the whole, the development of this project has allowed us to develop points 1 to 5. We need the support of the municipality for the rest of the steps. Next, the methodology is also a strong tool for the community as an initial idea of the condition of the spaces where they inhabit, as well as enabling them to use urban heritage to eradicate physical, social, economic, and urban difference, inequalities, and segregation. Future agreement between public and private sector and community can be led by a valid document in order to improve the inhabitants' quality of life. This also, we did some publications in several journals where you can find more information. And in the last slide, we had a big team between assessors from the other disciplines and the most important, a lot of the students. Nothing more. If you have some question, I will be happy to answer.
Alessio, do you want to include some questions that there are from the YouTube channel or from the public?
At the moment, there are no questions published. So I would just suggest to go on and maybe pick some question at the end so that we have time also to properly introduce the pitches. But I would also suggest us to maybe ask the experts to interact, maybe, if we have time, obviously.
Yeah, so I would like to go back to our main presentation here. I was really interested to see if there were like any kind of what was the idea of this adaptive reuse of the heritage buildings, and all the heritage building was their function in the social and urban context. But probably we take a lot of time over for the last presentation, so probably it's better to go ahead and having like a broader discussion at the end. So I would just thanks to all and try to having a broader discussion outside the screen. I would like to go ahead and go to the pitch of Agostino Massa and Riccardo Spinelli. The pitch session have been taught to having a presentation of research projects that are ongoing, and they are looking for some expert and or expertises or other collaborators or specific questions for going ahead with their research projects. So this session have been taught to give a room to few research projects that are ongoing at the moment, and for having as much people as possible, for having them interacting each other and matching their competencies and skills. We have the professor of sociology, Agostino Massa, and Riccardo Spinelli, that is professor in economics and business studies at the University of Genova. They are developing the project that is called Intour, that's they're gonna present it now in really 5 minutes. I prepared also the sounds after 5 minutes, but probably it's gonna be too stressful.
Okay.
So I will not use it. I just changed my mind over the presentation, but
I will do my best to stay in the 5 minutes. Can you hear me and see me well?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce our project. My name is Riccardo Spinelli. I'm a professor of tourism marketing in the Department of Economics and Business Studies of the University of Genoa. And next slide, please. I'm here on behalf of a group of researchers coming from the departments of my economics and business studies, education, and political sciences of our university. What are we interested in? The topic we are interested in is accessible and inclusive tourism. It's a very important and actual topic, because tourism is a fundamental social right. And the fact that tourism is accessible to all people worldwide raises a lot of issues in terms of accessibility and inclusion. We can realize that a large gap exists between the supply for accessible and inclusive tourism products and the demand, which is growing and coming from many different segments of the tourism market that are growingly being included in the market itself. We also realize that there is a shortage of specific competencies and skills, both in the staff and the management of tourist companies and organizations. So these people are not yet fully equipped with skills and competencies to address the specific needs of this kind of tourist, which may be a specific expectation due to their peculiar traits or their specific physical or mental needs. Therefore, we found that there are large opportunities both for research and training in the previous one, please, in this topic. And we find it very interesting because this topic can be approached from a multi and interdisciplinary point of view. And this is a very promising starting point. And also it calls for cooperation between scholars, practitioners, firms, and public entities to address these accessibility and inclusion issues from different and complementing points of view. And this is even more valuable when this cooperation raises at an international level. Please, next one. So at present, we are working in a European project within the Erasmus Plus KA2 program, which is called Intour, Inclusive Tourist Professions, European Curricula for Accessible Tourism Management and Frontline Staff. It's quite a large project with several partners from many European countries, Italy, Greece, Germany, Sweden, Spain, and so Belgium, and so on. And the aim is exactly to equip managers and frontline staff in the tourism sector with those knowledge, skills, and competencies that are needed to provide adequate services to customers with support needs. And the objective of the project is to define 2 professional profiles with 2 European curricula, one for inclusive tourism manager and the other one for inclusive tourism frontline staff. So we moved from the definition of the key activities, the core competencies, and the learning outcomes that constitute these 2 professional profiles. And we are trying to develop pilot courses to validate these profiles and then to provide the community of scholars and educators in Europe with a curricula that can be applied in a local environment within high education environments. In Genoa, we are planning a pilot course, which would be a master for inclusive tourism manager with AQF 7 level. And it will be a 1-year-long project starting in June, July 2022. So what are we looking for? We would be very glad to find cooperation from the other partners of Ulysses universities and in general from external stakeholders as of research activities. And then we are looking for experts to involve in the master course, experts that who could be scholars, practitioners, but also tourist companies and organizations, to invite them to seminars and classes. And also we are looking for tourist companies and organizations that may be available to host students during their traineeship, which is a part of the master program. I still have 7 seconds, so thanks everybody for the attention, and please feel free to contact us if you are available to cooperate with us.
That was really precise. So
thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Riccardo. I've been really appreciative. So who would like to having developed cooperation with for develop this project, please contact them or contact them through us. We are here for that. So we would like to go ahead and go with the project, Impacto project, that is about details from Carlos Teijerizo. Here, fellow researcher.
Can you hear me?
Really badly. If you can, probably going a little bit further from the microphone would be.
Hey, can you hear me now better?
Yeah, it's really high volume for me, but.
Okay. Okay. That's sad. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here presenting this little pitch regarding the questions of accessibility and inclusiveness in cultural heritage. My name is Carlos Tejerizo. I'm now a Marie Curie Fellow at the University of Genoa, and I will be considering these topics through the lenses of the project I'm currently developing. Next slide, please. The main topic I want to approach here is, in these few minutes, is the importance of local communities as one of the main agents in the territory in the development of any project dealing with accessibility and inclusiveness. The specific questions I want to arise here is how and by which specific tools do we engage with local communities, which initiatives can be developed in the specific context of traumatic heritage, how can these communities benefit from cultural and archaeological studies? Next slide, please. The project I'm currently involved with is called IMPACT, an acronym which stands for Industrialization, the Process of Modernity, the Archaeological Transformation of the Rural World. And its main aim is to investigate how the relationships between local communities and their environment changed as rural areas became industrialized by analyzing material evidence from archaeological and environmental perspectives. Next slide, please. This theoretical aim will be put into context through a case study located at the village of Casallo in the current territory of Galicia in Spain. Casallo is a perfect case study to evaluate the significance of accessibility and inclusiveness regarding local communities due to two main reasons. On the one hand, the difficult topography of the territory makes the question of accessibility a real challenge for the development of the project. Next slide, please. On the other hand, Casallo has an outstanding cultural heritage, among which we are paying attention to two particular elements of the traumatic past of this local community, one tangible and one intangible. The intangible part of this traumatic past deals with the violent process of industrialization in this area, which implied the sudden destruction of traditional economies. This industrialization was related to mining and the extraction of tungsten, a strategic mineral during the Second World War. In this regard, Casallo has some of the most important tungsten mines of Spain from the early 20th century. The tangible side of the traumatic past is represented by the development of the Spanish anti-Francoist guerrilla, which established in this village in Casallo one of its most important headquarters. Next slide, please. Since 2017, we have developed several ecological interventions in the area, which has prompted also several initiatives regarding the recovery of these traumatic heritages. Among them, I will highlight three. The first one is the physical recovery and restoration of the archaeological sites. This is being achieved thanks to the work from the local community itself, and thus promoting inclusiveness of these local communities into the construction and evaluation of their own histories. Next slide, please. Secondly, we are building, all together with the local community, a local museum to incorporate all the information coming from the archaeological and historical investigations. As I said, accessibility is an important factor to take into account regarding the dissemination of these particular projects. Thus, the construction of this museum is a significant, even a necessary landmark in the incorporation of these local communities to the scientific works. Next slide, please. Thirdly, in order to incorporate these local histories into a wider scale, we are currently promoting the declaration of this landscape as a bien de interés cultural, which is a Spanish legal figure to protect particular and significant cultural heritages. With this, we aim to both gain space for include other communities into the projects and also to appeal for resources to overcome the evident problems of accessibility to the cultural heritage in this area. An area that is currently being dismantled by modern slate mining, which is literally erasing the past heritage while polluting and destroying the local environment. Next slide, please. These initiatives have unveiled the crucial role played by the local community, which has been materialized in effective decisions regarding the aims, methodologies, and development of the project. This has been promoted through constant dialogue, meetings, participation in the social life of the community, etc. In other words, in an active process of empowerment of the community through the scientific projects. In summary, what I want to consider here is the crucial role that the active involvement of the local communities has for the development and promotion of inclusiveness and accessibility, simply because they know better what they need for the territory which cultural heritage projects impact on. even in these kind of difficult projects, such as the ones that approaches the traumatic pasts of these communities. Thank you very much.
What are you looking for, Carlos? Are you
sorry?
What are you looking for? Are you looking for having collaboration for European projects? What kind of collaboration?
Yeah, of course, so collaboration. One of the aims of this speech is to engage with this kind of difficult heritages around Europe in order to gain ideas to be applied here, and also, of course, for collaboration with other projects which may help us to reach these resources and these capabilities and this knowledge to implement these ideas into this difficult heritage and landscape. Yeah, so collaboration is what I'm looking for. It's the short answer.
Okay, Pauline and Roxanne, please go ahead with your project.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to introduce our part of the reflection of our diploma project. So next slide, please. Okay, thanks. So this is the beginning of our work. We decided to write our thesis on intangible cultural heritage. Inside this book, we explore the place of this heritage in the society, what is the different intangible cultures, and the impact of the community, how what kind of heritage evolves, because sometimes this kind of culture are subject to folklorization, and that gave us the third part of our thesis, which is about the reinterpretation and the update of some culture by creative minds like designer, architect, or artists. Next slide, please. Thanks. So this is our starting point. To beginning our project, we had to choose the topic, and for that part, we choose to use a list of the UNESCO, which is include more than 500 intangible cultures, and some of them need a safeguarding plans. And actually, we choose one who need one. Next slide, please. So as you can see, we choose to focus on the black pottery of Bissaleix, because it was really because we are really interested by the Portuguese culture, and as future designer, we are sensitive to the aesthetic and the knowledge of the behind this craftsmanship. What is important to know? About this. This is a craftsmanship recognized as an intangible culture thanks to his cooking method. As you can see on the first picture on the left, this is a pottery who's fried in an open kiln, and that's covered by ashes, and that gives a black color. So we met the last practitioner, actually, this is George Ramalho, and we discussed with him about the work, the condition, and the transmission issue he have about his profession. Next slide, please. And that gives us our statements. So this meeting allows us to see a lack of interest sometimes about this culture, and sometimes certain intangible culture are in the background of the society. So we start to see maybe opportunity as designer to use maybe local resources and health to propose solution adapt to the challenge of one territory. And for this part, it's about Portugal. And now I'll let Pauline take the end of the speech.
Yes, thank you. So we can go on the next slide, please. So first of all, we had to identify the major issue of the Portuguese territory and the major problem they have about development, sustainable development. There was 3 of them, which is protecting the coral reef and the marine wildlife, Also, it was going through sustainable resources and energy. And the last one was dry air and dry soil, which leads to a fire in the forest, as you can see on the picture. And actually, Portugal is one of the most vulnerable European country regarding the climate change. So that's why we had a field over there. So we can go on the next slide, please. So we focus on 3 different area of action, which is fire protection of the houses and the environment, also the sanitary comfort, because we have seen that in the traditional houses and a lot of different buildings in Portugal, we have problems of heating the place in winter and having it cold enough to live comfortable in it in summer. And also the regulation of external environment, because as it is really dry during summer, there is big problems of fire, and how can we protect the gardens of the people so it can be more easy to live on. We can go on next slide. So we have been also refocusing on the different material that we have. We have cork, we have wool, which is called burel, the black pottery, of course, and the pisé, which is an architectural technique. And all of them have really good thermic properties. So that's why it's going to help us a lot with the project, because we have a problem of thermic comfort and fire, and we have different materials that are really interesting in this kind of topic. So this is good for us. We can go on next slide. And also we have been focusing a lot on the Portuguese culture, which is material culture, but also intangible culture. We have the azulejos, which is an aesthetic singularity that we may be using to maybe implement better our project, and a different type of traditional architecture and more modern one. And then we can go on the next slide. So the challenge is, how can local wealth and know-how provide a solution of the growing problems of global warming on the quality of life of Portugal? And we can switch, which is the end. And now we are figuring out how can we provide the solution that are actually working, but also coherent with the different culture of Portugal and what people really need. And yeah, I think that's it. Maybe Roxanne, do you want to?
Everything is clear. I think it's done.
Well, thank you for listening to us. I hope it was clear enough and you had a small overview of the project. And thank you for inviting us too.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Are you looking specifically for something, or are you looking for a publisher, or
yeah,
what are you looking for?
So we may be looking for contacts to help us on the Portuguese field, and maybe also on the practical field, which is architecture and thermic solutions. Maybe Roxanne, do you want to add something?
No, I think everything is clear. We don't need. No, I think it's done.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks to you.
Really interesting project this as well. That's our last speech, I swear. We're gonna finish pretty soon, and with Professor Precioso, we're gonna give you the floor for the last few minutes we're gonna have left, and then having a couple of questions. Precioso is a professor at the University Côte d'Azur and on computer science. So you as well are having a lot of slides. If you could concentrate, telling us quite shortly what are the competencies you develop with this amazing projects in AI and cultural heritage preservation, and then telling us what are your needs, please.
Yes, thank you very much. So I've been carefully listening to all the colleagues, and I feel a bit on the side of the scope. I wouldn't say out of the scope, but on the side of the scope regarding all the previous presentation. Maybe it's a nice way to hand the loop, because I feel closer to the talk that was given in introduction, where there was this digital approach of cultural heritage preservation that was a lot mentioned. So maybe we can go quickly through the slides. I was just wanted here to point some projects we have been involved in, some that we are still working on. And it's really on the computer science or applied mathematics side. We are, let's say, AI experts, if we want to say like this, like that, machine learners and statisticians. And we are developing models to analyze data, basically. And so when the data are coming from cultural heritage, then it leads to projects like these ones. And we are particularly attached to this topic and to contribute as much as we can in this field. So that's the reason why we wanted to present something today, so that if it rings the bell to someone, or if some colleagues are interested to collaborate, we would be more than happy to bring this kind of skills to their project. So maybe on the next slide, I can just summarize. So DigiArt was an H2020 project that was finishing now 2 years ago. And the project was to design toolboxes for non-experts, non-computer scientists, so that archaeologists involved in the project were able to design storytelling engines to explain what they were doing in their research, valorizing their research. And it was in the call using 3D. So maybe we can go on. In particular, there was the, again, end user from Belgium. Yes, next slide, please. I'm going to, as the first presenter, I'm going to raise the hand to change the slide. I think it's going to be faster. Thank you. So the first end user were the archaeologists working in Skladina cave in Belgium, looking for remainings from humans and animals. And their objective was to use AI and 3D so that they didn't have to be at the same time archaeologists and guides to guide students, to guide non-expert large audience, because the visits of their cave was also a way of funding their research. So they wanted to get as little load of possible on the visits they had to manage, and using a virtual helmet headset to be able to organize a virtual visit with augmented reality. And there was also the objective of making games on the 3D scanning of the object, so that the visitors may better understand what they were looking for. And so we were using LiDARs, the same kind of 3D scanner that you have now on autonomous cars, to capture the cave, the wall cave, and then make a virtual environment of this to make a scenario. There was also the anthropology collection from Liverpool John Moores University, where they have a lot of bones from humans. And here again, we were designing toolboxes for them to be able to make some virtual games, playing with the information they were capturing from the analysis of the bones, like the disease that the people were dying from at the time, and different games for the audience to be able to understand the work of archaeologists. Finally, there was, yes, I'm going to skip this. So we were designing tools to capture 3D, the object in 3D. And there was also the tomb of the father of Alexander the Great in Greece. So here again, we were designing a toolbox for scanning the site with drones here. So there's a little video, but skip it. So with the drones, we were acquiring the 3D of the place, and we were able to retrieve information. We have designed 3D search engine to retrieve information. On this, yeah, if you can stop on this one, this is another project that we have with the Ministry of Culture, when we use the latest AI technique to enrich the metadata that are provided by creators, and to solve problems in the metadata, but also use the metadata to enrich AI algorithms. So that's a virtuous loop between AI and metadata from experts. And maybe the last one, because we were discussing again the last project. Yes, so because we were discussing this with Clio yesterday, I had 2 slides on urban scene understanding. We have been working with next slide, the National Geographic Institute in France to analyze the facades of buildings in Paris, to understand the geometry and the architectural content from the buildings. And also, of course, we're using urban understanding from autonomous cars with company. So same thing, analyzing urban scenes to understand what the sensors are capturing. And I think that's the shortest I could make. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frederic. Have been really a condensed structure. So we have only, of course, we are running out of time because there were a lot of stuff and a lot of suggestions. I only have 2 questions because we don't have time, of course, but we will be happy if you want to connect, all of you want to connect to someone, just contact us as Innovation Hub, and we're gonna make sure that all the connection and communication among people we're gonna function. So there is only 2 questions. One is from Susanna. It's for Susanna. That is about what do you think are the most effective tools to increase the cultural health of the citizens of your city and the citizens of the world?
Okay, I think establishing these new forms of dialogue and co-creation programs, last months of thinking and experience in projects brought me to this idea, or I'm kind of convinced that this would be the future, that we could open up the cultural institutions to a more participatory manner and create maybe some kind of councils or ad hoc communities that would actually help contribute also to the program and to the quality of the institution. So I think this is the way to go, and we just need to practice and prototype it and also present it to the world.
Right. Yeah. It's always about trying and experimenting.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we are running out of time now. I don't want to be rude or anything.
I was waiting for you.
We received a few more questions, but I think it's also conscious for us to try to go back to our speaker, to our experts, maybe behind the scenes and ask them questions, and we will probably answer those questions in other events that we are going to organize, just because otherwise they are cutting out the internet, and these might obviously leave the people without an answer anyway.
Okay, so thank you for everything.
Yeah, I would like for all us to switch on the cameras if it's feasible. It would be a nice picture, a nice, obviously, greeting to all people that are listening and viewing us. And I would like to thank you all for being here with us and really interesting discussion and presentations. I would like also to thank Leo to leading this really interesting webinar. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.